gentlemen, today we are going to get deeper into the story of Set versus Osiris and what that means about malevolence in nature, specifically in human nature. Our ancestors gave us a prophecy and an observation about what happens when trauma is experienced by the human mind. Set cut Osiris up into 14 pieces. Now, this symbology has layers of meaning, but ultimately it is talking about the same energy that preceded this split in consciousness. Okay? That took place when malevolent energy was introduced into this material reality. So today, excuse me, I'll be taking some time to explain the nature of malevolent energy, how Set represents that energy, and how the protagonistic nature of malevolent energy manifests as a materialistic and demonic energy that seeks to have dominion over everything and everyone. Now, this myth talks about the splitting of consciousness or missing soul pieces as the Osiris complex, except it results in mental illness, okay, over the body. So it's kind of like the walking dead. That's what we're going to be talking about today, and how Osiris became god of the underworld, and our example for not only the walking dead, but a degenerated consciousness or mental illness, okay, that results in a corrupted persona or disordered thought frequency. Okay, now my name is Dr. D Oracle. I'm your favorite metaphysician and psychic medium. You can consult me about your issues as I consult divine oracles and your spirits to see how to address any cross conditions, as it is called in hoodoo. I also offer services like my transpersonal counseling, where I help you process your emotion and make you accountable to transmuting your energy by integrating all parts of your consciousness. Okay? Now, I'm just gonna get right into this video. Make sure you click on that like and subscribe button if you like the content of my channel. Also, click on the bell so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Now, malevolent energy came into this reality in the age of Gemini a long time ago as a solo energy, but it was an extension of the benevolent energy. Remember, the benevolent energy is the expansive energy, okay? And I'll do another video on that later. But the benevolent energy is the female energy. So our original ancestors were actually hermaphrodites, or combined masculine, feminine energy, or malevolent and benevolent energy. Okay, they were combined, so they were without a gender, but they did have a womb. Okay, so you can consider this also as a form of wombed men, and we shared a body and mind and spirit. Then came evolution, which split our energy and consciousness. Okay, so now malevolent energy can be defined as a mental faculty that seeks to divide, dominate, and repurpose different energies for survival and to conquer its environment. In the tradition of our ancestors, Set, which is Osiris's brother, represents a lower level malevolent energy, and Osiris is the divine malevolent energy. Set cut up Osiris, representing aggressive behavior, which was both a trauma and a division or dividing of Osiris's body. If we look closely at this story, it represents also the higher and lower aspects of the collective human consciousness. Okay? Gemini, the twins, the right and left hemisphere of the brain, is the split of the psyche. Now, the malevolent energy by itself is a coarse or rough energy. It's direct, logical, but nevertheless aggressive. Okay, so it's direct, logical, and it's aggressive at the same time. But it's also a very earthly and materialistic energy, very shallow. So overall, when we look at Set's behavior, it can be summed up as lacking empathy. Okay, traumas are laid out into experiences where a lot of abuse by people who lacked empathy took advantage of people who had empathy, or little children, which they haven't necessarily developed their empathy, but they are motivated, by what they think their caregivers want to hear or see for survival. And most of the time, that overtakes a very sensitive child. Okay? At one time, that was mostly male initiated abuse. Okay? So we haven't had a lot of female abuse in the past, but at the present time it is increasing because more women are tapping into their malevolent energy. Okay, so Set, the abuser, is also someone who makes victims. At the end of the day, Set deliberately plays the protagonist of this story and others, because we also know Set by the jackal, which is also the devil, okay, which is also Satan, which is also Lucifer. Okay, so he traumatizes victims after accusing them of something, and he divides them up into pieces. Okay, Set's nature is malevolent, lower, and divisive. This lower energy is also connected to the demon function in nature, which goes off natural instinct, no matter if it is harmful to other beings. Let's look more at this as fragmentation of energy. Okay? In my other video, I mentioned how we all have a demon connected to us, one demon. It is the basic program of all animals. It instills in us motivation for survival and basic drives like eating, self-defense, and adaptation. So this is important because this instinct or drive manifests more as or in malevolent energy. In humans, we have both malevolent and benevolent energy, and we allow this to manifest as our animus or animal drive. These were cultivated by various expected behaviors and outcomes at one point in history. People call that culture. And that culminated into a bunch of gender roles that made malevolent energy on a human level very comfortable. And we experienced some very high vibrations, but the inequality between men and women was imbalanced. So that this time period that we're experiencing now can happen. So we have two things going on here with this situation. One, demonic influence is more prominent in masculine energy. And two, division from trauma in the human collective of consciousness, okay, or the human psyche. So this has to do, well, number one has to do with the decline in our awareness, okay? And this is the Osiris complex, okay? Because this is also division of the psyche due to lower nature, or the chopping up, okay, of our consciousness. The other has to do with the traumatic experiences that are the catalyst. The trauma causes our demon to split, which is called fragmentation. And many times we end up having some mental illness that we can look at as a corruption of consciousness. And we also see that as shadow behavior. There is a group of demons that influence more dark triad behaviors and tendencies. If you have known anything about the dark triad, this represents the more malevolent qualities of human nature. These are maladaptions resulting from trauma and abuse, and they usually manifest as personality disorders, disassociation with narcissism, and psychopathy. Okay? The cycles of consciousness have a decline where consciousness dips into a dark winter slumber, and the cosmic order of time affects consciousness, so that we go through seasons and zodiacs, experiencing rises and falls in our lower and higher psychic energies. In lower energy states, more dark triad traits express as people abuse one another, and our demonic influence is triggered rather than integrated. In the latter state, we use these energies to inform us rather than those energies using us to siphon more energy from others. Our demons cause us to become more instinctual, and we become less conscious of our higher energies when Set is able to give us pain. We disassociate from those experiences, and we become divided by a false self versus a real self. Okay, so this is where the internal spiritual battle is actually happening, and we're projecting that, onto other people. Okay, and this happens no matter where you are in society. You can be rich, you can be poor, you can have a disease or be healthy. It doesn't matter. Okay, you will still have to experience this inner spiritual battle. That is also where the deception of our demons cause us to deny ourselves, and filtering information through this deception is where our persona is corrupted by those demons. Okay, in psychology, this is called personality disorders, and it causes us to have a pattern of thinking that is destructive to our health and our well-being. Okay, ultimately, Osiris ends up being like the Walking Dead when Isis is able to piece him back together. So Isis goes out, find all the pieces that Osiris, threw everywhere after he chopped them up, and she pieces him back together. This means lost soul or psychic energies that he has to repair or retrieve. He has to rebond himself to himself. He does this by using the moon. And I told you guys in my last video, the moon is what deals with the different lower natures. Okay? That is part of the collective human conscious. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, this means integrating with your shadows, your darker psychic energies, so that you won't be divided, diluted, or deceived by your lower self. Okay? And they will serve your well-being rather than corrupting you into nothing more than an animal who has insatiable appetites of hunger, lust, and power. Okay, and if you notice, that's the type of stuff that we're dealing with, with different government officials, and also with the degradation of the American empire. That's all part of it. Like, just people having insatiable appetites. It starts with money, and then it veers off into like these other areas, some of what people may call the 7 deadly sins. Okay, they are unaware of higher realities when we take on this state, and they can't really relate to morality, intellect, compassion, and joy. If they do, it's of a fake nature. So that's basically how the malevolent energy is expressing, okay? In the lower consciousness, okay? I mentioned the degradation of society, but I'm going to make a full video on how at this time in the cycle of consciousness, activity is highly, malevolent activity is highly active, and what we must do to achieve oneness, okay, with that energy within ourselves, so that we can avoid being corrupted by it, or letting the demonic experience of it cause us to be imbalanced with our divine selves. Now, once again, Osiris became god of the underworld, and that is now our example for the walking dead, people with missing soul pieces, okay? And your soul is simply your psyche or your mind. And it's also an example of degenerated consciousness, okay, what we're experiencing at this time in the cycle of consciousness, or what's also termed mental illness, okay? And that is basically a result of corrupted persona or disordered thought frequency manifesting. Well, don't hesitate to reach out for my dark mirror reading, where I help you uncover your demonic spiritual cord and integrate that awareness into your soul or psyche, so that you can experience peace, wholeness, and a sound mind. Thank you for watching.